Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of Hacks and Hunt. I'm so excited for today's episode as I show you guys how I fletch my arrows. So go ahead and stay tuned if you want to see how I have learned to fletch my own arrows. Video we're doing today is refletching my arrows. I've got a 3-fletch arrow that we're going to be switching over to a 4-fletch. I found that it's flying a little bit better with my bow, as well as I had to change from a right helical to a left because my bow is naturally throwing the arrow to the left. So just wanted to kind of show you guys from stripping down your old arrows to making it basically brand new to put on those new fletchings. So I've got the Boning Archery, I think it's the Zip Fletcher or something. I think that's the name of it. I can't remember. Basically it just shaves off the fletchings there. You can see right there. It's got a good curvature there so it doesn't scrape your arrow. So we just begin by just getting off the first couple fletchings. And it's not razor sharp, because if it was razor sharp it's going to scratch or scrape off the carbon on your arrow. So you first get those 3 fletchings off, or 4 fletchings, or 10 fletchings, whatever you've got on. And then now you have the wrap that's still left on there. So what we're going to actually do is back and forth, get that wrap off, and it's not scratching the carbon since it's not a very sharp fletching remover. So let's get that all off. It makes a real good mess. I try to keep it off the carpet because this stuff's pretty sticky. It sticks right inside the carpet. So I'll get just that kind of first 75% off and then go down to that bottom half and just slowly rotating the shaft as I go across. It is better to take off your knock. I totally forgot to do that. Just take off your knock in the beginning. Those suckers are on there. Because it does scrape your knock up pretty bad, especially here at the end. Basically just whittling a stick like you're in Boy Scouts again, you know. These wraps I had on these arrows were super good wraps. They didn't tear at all. They are on there. So after that, clean up your mess. So as you can see here, there's still quite a bit of residue on there, and you can't just throw on your new wrap, or else that's not going to stick very good. It's not going to be consistent. So I actually have the AAE Max Clean wipes that work super well. I've already done about 15 arrows with it. So right here, you just wipe down your arrow. Kind of helps break up that adhesion from the old wrap. And what I do like to do is I'll take this and just kind of scrape it still. The wipe will break it up. It tends to leave a couple things left on there, so it just kind of helps to scrape it a little more. And you'll feel if there's any adhesion left on there. But I do have my arrows marked. I try not to wipe that off. Little Sharpie mark on there. That's the stiffest side of my arrow, so I like to keep that visible. So we're gonna keep this arrow shaft nice and clean. So we're gonna put this knock back on there. Okay. So we got the knock back on, so now we just have a nice clean bare shaft. So we're gonna let that dry from this wipe for about a minute or so. But while I do that, we are going to get the wrap ready. So I like to keep this wipe for when I'm doing the glue. So I'm going with just a plain green wrap. That's what I've been using on my few arrows I've done. So what you're gonna do, I've got a mouse pad just flipped upside down. That's the pad that I'm using. Just kind of helps Helps have it on there a little easier and have something to squish it down on. So check the shaft, make sure it's nice and dry and clean. It does look like there is a little bit of adhesion left on there from that wrap. So let's clean it up real fast, as much as we can. Alright guys, so that arrow is nice, clean, and it's almost dry. We'll let it keep drying. So we're gonna get that wrap put on now that we've got a nice clean bare shaft. Alright guys, so what you're gonna do is take your nice clean bare shaft, and I've got the wrap upside down right here. Just gonna make sure I don't hit the wall. So then what you're gonna do is slide it, line it up right there with the knock, and then slide it so that way it's touching on both sides, and you can kind of move. We are actually gonna flip this over. It works better on this side. Alright. So what you're gonna do now, slide it on, make sure it's touching both sides. And I kind of do that by wiggling it back and forth, so you guys can see there. And then what you're gonna do is press down and then roll. Just like that, you have a perfectly adhered wrap for your new arrow. So then what I do is I take the AAE wipe and I kind of just press down and twist the arrow. That way it gets good adhesion with the whole entire wrap, and that way I don't get my finger grease on it before I put any of the fletchings on, before I get those glued on. Alright guys, so we've got that wrap put on, and I've got my nice fletch Bitzenburger right here. Got it set up with a 4 fletch. So with a left helical clamp as well. So that's what we're using. Okay, so next is we are going to get, so I've got here the AAE Max. They're the Max Stealth vanes. So they're a little slimmer profile and a little longer than the regular like 2-inch shorter fletchings, which were on my old arrow right here. So there's my old fletching. So it's a little bit longer but a little less profile, just a little bit shorter, which I do like because these ones tend to hit my cables, just slightly hit my cables, and so that's why I went with the little shorter profile ones. Kind of help that out. So first you're gonna grab your AAE Max Weld primer pen. So this just helps prepare those fletchings, and what I like to do is I take these fletchings, put them right here in this clamp. I'll do 2 of them at a time in the clamp, and then kind of shake up your pen, get good primer stuff there at the end. Push it, there we go. And then what I like to do right here is just kind of wipe it nice and clean and prime those little pockets on that fletching to be ready to be glued on to my arrow. Okay. You don't want to touch that, you want to allow those to dry, so I set them down there on the clean table. And then prepare these next 2, and I only like to do 4 at a time, or 1 arrow at a time. So if I'm doing a 3 fletch, it's going to be 3 at a time, but since I'm doing a 4 fletch, do 4 at a time. That way they tend to stay clean, and you don't have them sitting around collecting any dust or anything which can be kind of an impurity when you're getting it glued on. So kind of just prime those, get that cap put on, set those down, and then carefully grab one, and then I like to fletch. I like to fletch mine right there on that 3rd tick on the way up. So leaves enough space on the back. I'll show you guys right here on a arrow I have finished. Leaves about 1.25 inches right there on the back end, which I have found works pretty good for me. So now we have our first fletching here in the clamp. I've got the AAE Max Bond glue. This works really good, as basically they sell it as a kit on Lancaster archery, so it just helps everything works good together. You got the primer pen, you got the wipes, and you have the glue, so it all works great. So we're going to show you guys right here. We're just going to do a light bead of glue down the whole fletching. And then what I like to do is just kind of smear it in there. Not pushing any more glue on, but just kind of get it across the whole pocket there. Just make sure it's all evenly spread out. And then what you're gonna do is get it lined up here on your Bitzenburger and make sure it's hitting the end there on the bottom. But then what I like to do, kind of makes it adhere a lot better, is you're gonna start at the bottom and then kind of curl up to the rest of that fletching getting glued on. So you'll kind of start there at the bottom, as you can see the bottom's touching, and then just slide it that way. Give it some slight pressure for about 10 seconds or so. Allow that to glue on there. So I'll take that off, put that in the next position, and then you can see there's a little residue of glue right there on that fletching. And I'll just wipe that with my finger and then put that on the cloth, on the towel. And then put this back in the Bitzenburger, make sure that's in the locked position for the next fletching. Grab your clamp, put on fletching number 2. Grab your glue, a nice fine bead of glue. And then hook that one back on too. Start at the bottom, rotate up. Hold that in for about 10 seconds or so. So, third fletching. On to the fourth fletching. Line up on the third tick. Nice bead of glue. Okay. And we are going to get that in position. Start at the bottom. Slowly rotate down to the top. Give that 10 seconds pressure to adhere. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Give that a little rotate. And boom, you have your finished 4-fletched arrow right there. Looks great, but then what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna make it a little bit stronger. John Dudley gives everyone this tip. So he uses a Fletch Tight Platinum glue. So this he calls tipping and tailing. And what that consists of is actually getting a little bit of this glue put right here just on the top of each fletching. Just a dab, just barely any glue. Just kind of helps make it so they don't peel off at all when you shoot it. And then you do the exact same to the back side. And give that some time to adhere and dry. And what I like to do to dry my arrows is I stick them on my arrow spinner. Make sure they look good. You guys can see that spinning pretty well. They're nice and smooth. And then that just kind of helps dry it. You don't do it too fast or that tipping and tailing glue is going to spin off. So that is a finished arrow, guys. That is kind of how I've learned to fletch my arrows. Found out it's worked really good. I haven't had any arrows come off or tear. And these AA Max are really good quality fletching. They don't, like if I've shot it into the target to where it's totally gripped into it. And they don't warp, which is really nice because then you just have a straight fletching at all times. So guys, that is how I fletch my arrows. You just want to be careful, like I did here, just tipped over my glue. I always wipe my glue containers before I put the cap back on. That way I don't glue the cap on. So that's the equipment I use. It's worked really good for me lately, and just gonna continue getting the rest of my arrows done. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment, let me know. Any tips and tricks, comment, let me know as well. But if you haven't already, please subscribe. I'm going to continue to crank out some videos. I know I've been slacking lately, but I really appreciate all the support that I've continued to see on my YouTube channel. Just want to say thanks guys so much, and hope you guys have a wonderful day.